Tonight on NAIT NewsWatch.
Physician-assisted death will soon be legal across Canada.
There are people who need to have their suffering relieved.
New legislation means some public servants will soon be able to go on strike.
It's intended to recognize fundamental rights of public sector workers, but also to protect the public's interest as well.
And a new family care unit lets parents stay overnight with their newborn children.
I think it's wonderful to have that space for parents to spend and bond with their babies.
NewsWatch starts now.
Good evening. Physician-assisted death is set to become legal in less than 3 months.
With the deadline fast approaching, a public forum was held to educate the public on the controversial issue. Nathan Spence is live in our news center and has more on that story.
Thanks, guys. The Supreme Court's ruling on this sensitive subject is being applauded by right-to-die advocates. They've always felt it's a personal decision, and now with the proper guidelines followed and criteria met, the government is granting those in pain their final wish. Unitarian pastor and Dying with Dignity spokesman Brian Kiley feels the decision to legalize physician-assisted death has been a long time coming.
There are people who need to have their suffering relieved. There are people who are afraid of pain and suffering.
His mother died of secondary liver cancer, and despite her devout Catholic faith, asked her son if it got to the point that it was necessary to help her die with dignity on her own terms.
Simply letting her know that she would not have to suffer took her anxiety away, and she went through a palliative care process and died a beautiful death on her own.
Doctors, lawyers, and people on both sides of the debate came together Wednesday for a forum to discuss some of the issues with the new legislation.
We're going to see relentless pressure for it not to have to be a serious illness at the end of life, for it just to be people who are tired of their lives, because that is what's happening elsewhere.
The government has no right to tell me how to live my life, so long as I'm not harming or infringing on the rights of others. The government should not have control over my dying.
With changes to the new law taking full effect on June 6th, Dr. James Silvius of Alberta Health Services made sure to stress that although physician-assisted death is becoming legal, palliative or end-of-life care is still a top priority.
We need to assure and ensure that we are continuing to put in place what we need to for palliative and end-of-life care, so this does not become a consideration just because somebody feels they can't get something else.
Over the last week, 80 doctors have stepped forward from across Alberta saying they'd be willing to offer the service. And in that same time, 4 patients have stepped forward requesting an assisted death.
Nathan, how is the process of getting an assisted death actually going to work?
Well, Brian, the legislation isn't fully written yet, but from what I've been told, the patient will need to have a grievous and irremediable illness that causes intolerable suffering. Patients will also need to request the procedure on 2 separate occasions and have 2 separate physicians sign off on the requests. The patient will also have to be fully awake and competent when the lethal dose is actually administered.
Nathan, how is the new legislation going to work in regards to children and people suffering from mental illness?
Well, as of right now, the legislation is limited to a competent adult. Competent is someone who has the capability to fully understand and consent to what they're requesting. And as far as children are concerned, the law will be restricted to adults. And they define an adult as someone over 18 years of age.
Thanks, Nathan. That's Nathan Spence reporting live from our news center tonight.
NAIT NewsWatch, the next generation in news.
The Government of Canada is investing more than $23 million into 95 university research projects across the country.
We all know you can't do the science if you don't have the tools.
The University of Alberta will receive $2 million to build infrastructure to carry out research. The research being supported in Edmonton focuses on health, the environment, science, and engineering.
We need to support their research. Their research leads to new discoveries that is good for our environment, our health, our economy, our culture, and our communities.
The U of A is receiving the second highest funding from the program after the University of Toronto.
Tapcar, a new ride-sharing company, had their inaugural ride at City Hall last Monday.
We've definitely had a few thousand people already download our app. The response has been great.
Tapcar is a ride-sharing service hoping to compete with Uber. The company garnered some early attention when Councillor Dave Loken took part in their ceremonial first drive last Monday.
But yeah, I certainly now have another choice. So if I don't have a taxi available, or if this is more convenient, then yeah, sure, why not? I mean, and that's what it's about. Again, people want choices.
TAPCAR says that they have spoken with union representatives and they are willing to discuss unionization if that is what drivers want. Feel free to download the TAPCAR app onto your mobile phone or cellular device.
The provincial government has introduced a new bill that would allow nurses and public employees to go on strike.
There will be some disruption to public services in the event of a strike or lockout, but essential services will remain available.
The essential service legislation would make unions determine the staff needed to continue working and provide essential services while other members were on strike. It is in response to the Supreme Court ruling against the prohibition of public union strikes.
It's intended to recognize fundamental rights of public sector workers, but also to protect the public's interest as well in the case of a lockout or a strike.
Those covered by the new legislation include Alberta Health Services and other approved hospitals, government workers, and non-academic post-secondary staff. Municipal firefighters and police officers are exempt.
The Royal Alexandria Hospital has a new intensive care unit for babies with serious health complications.
Oh, darling.
9 neonatal beds have been transferred into the family care unit in the Lois Hole Hospital. These beds are for babies who are closer to being discharged and need less intensive care. Jessica Pott, a mother of twins, uses the family care unit. She is thankful for having a chance to nurture her babies as they prepare to leave.
Give them the love and care 24/7 that they need, and to help them grow and develop. It's just been an amazing journey and an amazing blessing to be able to be here with them.
The Royal Alexandra Hospital is hoping to roll the program across the province.
When a humanitarian crisis strikes, Canadian Red Cross aid workers work their hardest to provide life-saving support to those in need.
If there's a lot of sickness, then we have to send people to help.
The Faces of Humanity exhibit showcases Canadians on the front lines of disaster, such as the humanitarian aid workers who fought Ebola in West Africa and provided aid during the Syrian refugee crisis.
One of the missions I was on, Sierra Leone, in Kenema, was at the Ebola Treatment Center. We went through extensive training in Geneva to learn how to wear our PPE, much like what Stella's wearing right here.
For more information on the Red Cross and their work across the globe, feel free to check out redcross.ca.
The City of Edmonton Youth Council is making sure no youth gets left behind.
Youth are our future.
Working alongside End Poverty Edmonton, and yes, the Edmonton Youth Council hosted a silent auction and 50-50 draw to provide free transit passes for youth at risk.
It gives them some sort of dignity as well, because being able to get to and from work, school, social services, home, shelter, whatever it happens to be, it's just like being a regular member of society, as well as the utility-based aspect of it.
The event raised more than $3,000, which equals 1,600 bus passes for vulnerable youth in our city.
NAIT students and staff gathered at the South Lobby of NAIT to support the Pride Week event.
Go NAIT Pride!
People walked with pride and enthusiasm as they celebrated Pride Week. Pride Week is an opportunity for people to come together to celebrate LGBTQ individuals. Tim Ira, the organizer of the program, stated everything that LGBTQ students bring to the society and to our own institution is important. Ira hopes to give a positive and a light approach to the LGBTQ group.
For each individual, your journey is up to you, and each step is about being more comfortable with yourself and loving yourself. So make sure to go on that kind of journey first, and then you can join us out here at the party.
If you would like to see more information about Pride Week, visit nait.ca.
Sturgeon County residents will soon vote on whether or not to ask the NDP government to pay for school police officers. School resource officers mentor students, teach anti-drug courses and online bullying prevention, and enforce the law. For some rural neighborhoods, however, the cost of a full-time officer is just too much.
Through the school resource officer, those relationships and that understanding of, they're not out there to make your life miserable, so to speak, that they're out there to help you as well. That carries over for a lifetime, really.
In 2013, the association representing Alberta's police commissions claimed that inadequate funding was limiting the placement of police officers in schools.
Some of Edmonton's less fortunate were invited to a healthy mac and cheese lunch this week.
All from scratch, dry beans, dry lentils, doing it the old-fashioned way. Grandma was right.
On Tuesday, local media personalities and businesses worked together to provide over 400 pounds of food to feed 300 people at the Bissell Centre downtown.
What makes this meal a little bit more special is the fact that the people in the community can come to a safe, warm place. There's people who haven't seen their friends in quite a long time, people who've grown up in this community, and to see the men and women, friends and family come together for a special meal is also very exciting to see.
This is the same meal to be served next week at the Inner City Agencies Foundation Luncheon. Coming up after the break, we're going to take a look at how students are struggling with debt while in school.
We talked to a financial aid specialist about how you can manage your student debt.
I worked a couple years before I came here, and it's a really big change.
Hey, I'm Kevin Bain, and coming up after the break, I've got men's and women's Ooks highlights, I've got minor hockey finals, and I try archery.
I'm Sydney Peach, and coming up after the break, I have your first day of spring forecast. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. Even though it's felt like it for a while, tomorrow is the official first day of spring.
Which means the spring equinox is happening. Here's Sydney Peach with your Sunday forecast.
Thanks, guys. Actually, most people think the spring equinox happens on the first day of spring, but it actually already happened on Thursday. But let's just get right into the temperatures for tomorrow. Starting in Calgary, it'll be mostly cloudy with a high of 10 and a low of -4. So still pretty nice to get outside and enjoy the day. In Jasper, it's also going to be mostly cloudy with a high of 4 and a low of -9. However, they're expecting snow all next week, so you still have some time to hit the slopes before all the snow melts. In Fort McMurray, it's also mostly cloudy with a high of 0 and a low of -6. There's also a 0% chance of precipitation, so still not too bad for the beginning of spring. In our home city, it's going to be mostly cloudy as well with a high of 8 and a low of -3. There's also a 0% chance of precipitation, so get outside and enjoy the first day of spring. Our averages for this time of year are a high of 3 and a low of -6, so we're sitting right around those averages right now. The record temperatures are a high of 18 in 1928. That would be so nice right now. The low is a low of -36 in 1882, which would be absolutely brutal. So thank goodness we're not there. So it's going to be mostly cloudy for Sunday throughout the whole province, but that's totally okay because it's only getting nicer and lighter outside from here on out. But that's about all for your weekend forecast. I'm Sydney Peach, and have a great rest of your weekend. NAIT NewsWatch weather is brought to you by NR92, the station for the students.
With the increase of consumer debt in Edmonton, students are also struggling to pay their own debt.
A NAIT student showed his story on how he handles debt. Ferry Al-Bashir reports.
Student life can be tough when you're living on your own and trying to pay for rent and tuition at the same time. Carson Arrett is a NAIT business student who moved from Pigeon Lake to Edmonton. He went from having a full-time job to being a full-time student, which makes it difficult for him to budget his expenses.
I worked a couple years before I came here, and it's a really big change coming from earning an income regularly to having to go on a budget.
After going on a budget, Carson found other solutions to getting an income while attending school.
I sold a bunch of my stuff on Kijiji when I moved to the city. It's mostly budgeting, but yeah, I'm definitely going to get a part-time job.
Aside from getting a part-time job, Carson is also looking into applying to get a student loan. Now, NAIT Financial Aid offers assistance to those who are in the same boat as Carson.
Students that are in debt when they come to school,
typically have less of a social interaction at school.
Students don't have the resources to be able to go out with their friends as much as they like. Therefore, financial aid is here to help put a budget together for you.
We can go through a budget with you, try and map out what your priorities are, and help you reach those goals so you're still having that full experience.
Fari Al-Bashir, NAIT NewsWatch.
Now it's time for sports, and I'm excited to see how the Ooks women's hockey team finished in the finals.
Definitely. And minor hockey wrapped up this week. Kevin, why don't you tell us all about it?
That's right. I've got all that coming up. But first, let's look at how the men did on their quest for ACAC glory. Our Ooks men's team took on Red Deer College in the ACAC semifinals. The winner of the series faces Augustana in the finals. I'll start you off late in the first. Score tied at 0, Ooks on the power play, and Dunkel finishes off some slick puck movement. 1-0 Ooks. Just 30 seconds later, Kings defenseman Mike Stachuk bobbles the D-to-D pass, and the combination of Gaston and Feldnermeyer capitalize on the gift. 2-0 Ooks after 1. Early second, Kings netminder Mike Salmon makes a solid stop to keep the Ooks lead at 2. Midway through the frame, Sam Waterfield spins away from a Kings defender before snapping a point shot that gets tipped by Dunkel for his second of the night. Ooks up 4-0. Into the third, Kings looking to change the momentum as forward Dylan Thudium runs over captain Scott Feldnermeyer. Then Ooks goalie Ken Cameron covers up to stop the scramble play in front, but a scuffle ensues as the Kings let the Ooks know they won't go down without a fight. Both teams wind up penalized for that one. The Kings popped a late one in the third, but it wouldn't matter as the Ooks proved to be too much for the RDC Kings. Final score 6-1. This game was all Ooks as they continue to prove why they haven't lost yet. Here's Tanner Dunkel on the Ooks performance.
Once we got one, I think the floodgates opened, and we stuck to the structure, and we just played simple NAIT hockey, and obviously it helped us win tonight.
After starting the series up 1-0, our Ooks women fell behind 2-1 in the best-of-5 ACAC final. Game 4 was a nail-biter to say the least. Already late in the first, RDC opens up the scoring on a 5-on-3 power play as Emily Swear bangs home a rebound. 5-on-4 now, 40 seconds later, and Nikki Connor tips home Ashley Graff's point shot to put the Queens up by 2. Skipping to the second, Ooks defenseman Carlin Bowie rips one short side to cut the lead in half. 3 minutes later, Ooks on the power play, and Chelsea Goche dangles out of the corner before slipping one past Queens goalie Jen West to knot the game at 2 apiece. The Ooks keep the pressure on as just 2 minutes after that, Lindsay Roth finds the loose puck and swats it home, giving the Ooks the 3-2 lead. RDC would later tie the game to send it to overtime. The first OT period could prove nothing as Jen West stopped all 7 shots she faced in the frame. In the second overtime, the Ooks failed to clear the puck, and Emily Swear ends the ACAC season as she scores the double OT winner to end the Ooks' dream of winning the ACAC finals for a 4th straight season. Despite the loss, the women had a successful season as they struggled through the first half and managed to make it all the way to the finals. Coach Deanna Martin added her thoughts.
I think it's a hard-fought battle on both sides. I think both teams definitely had the same amount of talent, so to speak, to win the game. It really just came down, I think, to grit and determination.
It may not be the Stanley Cup, but to these kids, it's the next best thing. Edmonton minor hockey teams battled all season for a chance to play in one of 69 championship games that took place this week. Loads of parents took in the action as 546 teams across the city tried to achieve minor hockey glory. Every team fought hard, and as everyone knows, someone wins and unfortunately someone has to lose. But to the kids, it's worth it either way.
Fought hard, but unfortunately came up, defeated. But the kids still, they had fun getting here. Minor hockey, it's a great organization. Gets the kids motivated. I love being a head coach. So.
Gloves and helmets went flying as the games expired. Both teams in every final were awarded medals and were cheered on loudly by their proud parents. For this week's End Zone Challenge, I channeled my inner Legolas and tried out archery. I went down to the Wild Archery to learn how to properly operate a bow and arrow.
The first thing that we're going to do is safety. That is probably the most important thing that we are concerned about here.
Justin briefed me on safety, and then he taught me how to shoot.
So 1 foot on either side, arrow is going to go on just underneath that little brass knot there, just like that. Yep. These fins on the back of the arrows, these are called vanes. The two that are the same color are called hen vanes. The odd colored vein is the cock vein, and the cock vein always sticks out away from the bow. So when you shoot, it's going to slide past the bow, just like that. The cock vein's on the inside, it's going to hit the bow. Arm is going to be straight out at the target. You're going to take the top 3 fingers, your index, middle, and ring finger, place it underneath the arrow on these little rubber guys here. Okay? So it's going to look just like this. And then when you're ready to shoot, all you need to do, let go.
And then came my turn. And trust me, it's a lot harder than it looks. Unlike Robin Hood, when I started, I was nowhere near the target. As I practiced, I was getting closer and closer, but I still couldn't hit it. After all was said and done, I ended up picking up more arrows from around the target than on it. But I know next time I'm back, I'll be aiming straight for that button.
Kevin, great form. Not so great precision.
Yeah, I wouldn't go hunting orcs anytime soon. I think you need a little more practice.
Yeah, those targets are a lot smaller than they look. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Kevin.
Coming up after the break, we volunteer with Edmonton Emergency Relief Services.
We help sort clothes and other donations for refugees and others who are new to our city.
If we can take your donations out of your car and be able to give it right to another family the minute that they need it, that is what we consider a good donation.
Hi, I'm Ben Blanchette. Coming up in entertainment, I tell you about a multi-million-dollar expansion at Fort Edmonton Park, and I give you a few ideas on what to do this weekend. All that coming up.
Clothing sponsored by Elite Sportswear, bringing you 60 years of dedication. Hair sponsored by Rock Salon and Spa.
A local nonprofit is helping to provide basic necessities to victims of crisis.
We visited the Edmonton Emergency Relief Services to see what we could do to help out. Whether it's clothing, kitchen supplies, or Christmas decorations, Edmonton Emergency Relief Services needs help every week to sort through and stock the many donations they receive.
So good donations are something that comes right out of your house into the hands of another family. If we can take your donations out of your car and be able to give it right to another family the minute that they need it, that is what we consider a good donation.
Previously assisting those displaced by the Slave Lake fire, they now provide for refugees living in our city. The service relies on their thrift store to operate. If you would like to volunteer, shop, or donate, stop by their store or see their website at eerss.org.
There's a new multi-million-dollar addition to the Blatchford Hangar at Fort Edmonton Park, and it's now open.
Yeah, and I need some ideas for what to do for the rest of the weekend. Here's Ben Blanchette with this week's entertainment.
If you're interested in 17th century Versailles, the Hunger Games, and the current political climate, then Firefly Theatre has just the play for you. Firefly Theatre is Edmonton's only aerial theatre and are bringing you a very interesting and different kind of play. Panache is a satirical performance where the characters are at a pep rally to support their very Trump-esque wannabe leader. There's a number of acrobatic performances, live accordion music, comedy, magic, and much more.
We have aerialists, we have Chinese pole, we have acrobatics, we have a steel wheel, we have a magician, we have a live accordion player, and we have dogs.
No matter what your interests are, there's something in this play for you. Its last show is this Sunday, so time is running out. Get out and see it before it's gone. For the past week, restaurants all over downtown Edmonton have been offering incredible dishes at a lower price. Downtown dining is 10 days where restaurants have a set lower price menu to encourage people to enjoy places that they may not otherwise have an opportunity to.
Each restaurant will kind of prepare a menu that will highlight what their individual cuisines will be, and so they'll have like a lunch special to kind of get the lunch, the business crowd downtown, and then also a night special, so it's usually a 3-course dinner to get people coming downtown for dinners and to enjoy the nightlife of Edmonton.
For places like Sorrentino's downtown, they see it as a great chance to welcome new people to their great restaurant. Hopefully you've been able to experience all of what downtown dining has to offer. If not, it goes on for the rest of the weekend, so you have a bit more time to visit some of these excellent restaurants. The Blatchford Hangar down at Fort Edmonton Park has a new addition to help make events run a little easier. The ribbon was cut on the new kitchen addition on the Blatchford Hangar. The renovation cost a total of $3.3 million, split between the city and the Alberta government, $1.8 million and $1.5 million respectively.
They have a lot of functions that go through the year. What we needed to do was to build an expansion onto the kitchen that would be able to support, the necessary requirements that they needed for the park.
The Blatchford Hangar plays host to a number of events all year. From reunions to weddings, the hangar is always full of people. With the new expansion, the kitchen is now able to support up to 5,000 people at a time. The kitchen will be used to serve both public and private events. The Victoria School of the Arts is putting on another great show this weekend. Once on This Island is a play with many themes. The power of love and self-sacrifice are showcased in this theatrical retelling of the classic, The Little Mermaid. The play has deep emotion in it with a strong message, but is still fun and engaging.
The final line of the show is, "Our lives become the stories that we weave," and I think that's rather powerful in showing how this community of storytellers is telling the story of Timoon and Stanley Boisome.
Unfortunately, the play has come to an end. The Victoria School of Arts always has different events going on though, so make sure you check them out if you missed this one. That has been your look at this week's entertainment. Thank you for joining me. Back to you guys.
Well, it seems like there's a lot of theater happening in our city this weekend.
Yeah, what did you think of that Firefly show?
I thought it was really interesting, going through the hoops as it's flipping around.
I tell you, those guys must be in excellent shape. That's amazing.
Yeah, and you said that you've done that before.
Yeah, I actually took a class with Firefly before, a beginning aerial silks class, and I really enjoyed it. Right, well, that's NAIT NewsWatch this week. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jesse Setka.
And I'm Brian Lentz. Thank you for joining us.